This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. This is a kasaya. Everyone was stunned by the scene in front of them. The bright red liquid southern fire crystal gold ore flowed in front of them, forming a circle like a moat. And the center of the liquid ore was a red chaos, revealing a strong energy that was even stronger than those liquid ore. What's inside? Such a powerful and boundless energy, could it be the southern fire crystal gold source? Gao Lin was extremely shocked. The fire element that filled the entire world, as well as the spirit chi that had almost turned into liquid, was blowing in his face. If a fire-type martial artist cultivated here, the effect would be heaven-defying. Among the 50 or so cultivators, many showed looks of joy and began greedily absorbing the energy. Even if they didn't get anything, being able to cultivate here for a year or so was equivalent to several years of cultivation in the outside world. There were also water element warriors who furrowed their brows, feeling extremely uncomfortable. Yunxiao walked out of the passage. Around the Liquid Ring River, there were several other exits. Obviously, there was more than one passage leading to the center of the maze. His divine sense directly crossed the Liquid Ring River and radiated towards the central area, but it was suddenly blocked by an invisible force, intercepted, unable to advance in the slightest. There's a divine sense barrier indeed. Yunxiao muttered to himself as he crossed his arms and stared at the foggy central area, deep in thought. Sun Jiming said, "What are you afraid of? We'll know the situation if we go over and take a look. We've already come this far, so we can't just stop here, can we?" "You're right, Sect Master Sun," Yunxiao said with a smile. "But, I've already completed my task of leading the way. It can't be that I have to be the forward, right? Friendship is friendship, but you have to pay more." Sun Jiming's face twitched. He smiled insincerely and said, "That's true. Young Master Yun, you've worked hard. We'll take care of the rest. President Qian, you've been searching for so long, someone should have gone up, right?" "Humph." Chu Lin snorted coldly and said, "If we could come here, would we need Yunxiao to lead the way? There's an 80 to 90% chance that the treasure is within the central primordial chaos." Sun Jiming laughed coldly and pointed at some marks on the ground. "Guys, look at the mark. Apparently, someone has come here recently and is heading to the central area. Besides your Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce, who else could it be? Or the people from the Big Dipper sect? I think that group of people is still in the maze and can't find the exit." Gao Lin's heart trembled as he suddenly looked in the direction that Gao Jiming was pointing at. There were indeed shallow footprints on the ground. If it weren't for the fact that the fire element here was too dense, it would be impossible to leave any footprints. His expression changed drastically as he cried out in horror, "Arg! Could it be that man? He's still alive." Everyone was also very curious and looked at the ground. All of them were focused on the grand scene around them and had forgotten about these details. After all, Sun Jiming was not an ordinary person. He observed more carefully than everyone else. Hearing Gao Lin's shocked shout, everyone's eyes fell on him. Sun Jiming's face darkened, and he said solemnly, "It's indeed related to your Chamber of Commerce." What was going on? This matter is of great importance, directly related to whether the treasure is still there. I ask that President Qian not hide it. Ying Lin's face was filled with uncertainty, and hesitation and struggle flickered in his eyes. In the end, he said in a deep voice, "He's just a trader of the Chamber of Commerce who escaped into it. I didn't expect him to find the central area and cross the Ring River." Everyone could tell that there was a problem, but since the other party was not willing to say it, they could not force him. It would be fine as long as it did not affect the treasure. Sun Jiming said, "Since someone went over first, it proves that there's no problem. Let's go up and see what's going on." He leaped into the air and flew toward the red chaotic land in the center. As soon as he stepped onto the Ring River, a red liquid rose up from below. It danced in the air like a huge earthworm and wrapped around Sun Jiming's body. "What?" Everyone was shocked, including Sun Jiming. However, he was bold and naturally wasn't afraid of the liquid attack. He conjured an art with one hand and a layer of defense immediately appeared around him. Then, he put his 5 fingers together and slapped down with a loud shout. Walala. The liquid from the southern fire crystal gold mine dispersed after being shaken by the palm force. However, it did not fall down. Instead, it turned into countless liquid balls that floated in the air. After that, they suddenly moved and shot towards Sun Jiming. Whoosh! Lava whizzed across the sky like fireballs, and the astonishing temperature and spiritual energy felt extremely dangerous even from a distance. Sun Jiming's expression changed as well. He didn't expect the liquid to be so difficult to deal with. He let out a soft cry and dispersed his domain in an attempt to stop the liquid. However, in just a few breaths, the liquid ignored the power of the domain and continued to charge forward. It was already very close and there was no way to avoid it. Vast and brilliant light, spirit illumination art. Sun Jiming's hands quickly formed a seal, and streams of golden light shot out from the seal, forming a protective divine light around his body. Then, tens of thousands of rays of light shot out, destroying all the fireballs in the surroundings. Lava exploded and fell from the sky. After Sun Jiming escaped danger with one move, he didn't fly towards the center. Instead, he changed his body movements a few times in the air and actually flew back. When he landed, he had a grave expression. Yunxiao laughed. Sect Master Sun's cultivation base is unparalleled. This trap is nothing to him. Why are you back? Sun Jiming didn't care about his sarcasm. Instead, he said in a serious tone, President Gao, what is the cultivation of the trader of your Chamber of Commerce? An ordinary revered martial artist? What's wrong? Asked Gao Lin with a frown. If he was really an ordinary revered martial artist, he would have fallen into the lava river and died. Sun Jiming said. Is the lava that powerful? Asked Gao Lin in surprise. Everyone was in disbelief. Sun Jiming snorted coldly and said, if you don't believe me, you can try it yourself. Naturally, no one dared to try. Their faces were all solemn. The treasure was right in front of them, but they could see it but not grab it. All of them were itching to try, and they were quite unwilling. President Gao, you have the highest cultivation level here. Why don't you try and find a way to open a path for everyone? Sun Jiming asked. I'd like to see if it's as terrifying as sect leader Sun said. Gao Lin snorted coldly. With a wave of his golden robe, he turned into a shadow and headed to the center of the red chaos. Bang! 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 There were 3 consecutive sounds in the lava, and 3 huge pillars of lava burst out, flying and spiraling. Gao Lin was shocked. Domain is useless? Just like Sun Jiming, after a short moment of daze, he struck out several times to break the lava pillars. The defense around his body opened up and he stepped on the lava balls that were shooting over to cross to the other side. Roar! Just as Gao Lin was about to reach the other side, a heaven-shaking roar suddenly came from the red chaos in the center. It sounded like the roar of a ferocious beast, and an extremely powerful sound wave attack immediately came out of the red chaos and blasted on Ing Lin's body, directly breaking his defense. Pfft. Gao Lin was a 9-stars martial supreme, but he was injured by the roar. He hurriedly retreated in shock. At this moment, the lava began to boil rapidly, and the water level was actually rising. It once again condensed into several streams of lava that swept towards Gao Lin, as if it was determined to keep him here. This turn of events shocked everyone, and Sun Jiming even felt a little scared. He had experienced the power of the liquid, so he naturally knew that Gao Lin was in danger. Not good, save him. Yunxiao shouted and rushed out without saying a word. Everyone was stunned. They did not understand why their enemies would risk their lives to save each other. The situation has changed. This place is dangerous. Saving Gao Lin is the same as saving ourselves. If we can't work together, I'm afraid no one will be able to get out. Yunxiao cried out in the air as a strange feeling welled up in his heart. He seemed to have sensed an indescribable danger. His intuition told him that any martial honor was a force to be reckoned with. Yunxiao slashed out with his sword. The sword beam contained the power of laws, and it cut open a passage in the red liquid, where Gao Lin was trapped and struggling to hold on. Hurry up and get out. His sword chi swept across and instantly slashed out hundreds of sword rays, suppressing the liquid that filled the sky. There was a look of disbelief on Gao Lin's face, and he thought that he had seen wrong or that Yunxiao had some scheme. What do you want to do? Be your sister. Yunxiao cursed angrily. Run. If you were not a 9-stars martial supreme, I would not have saved you. He suddenly felt an extremely powerful force rushing out from the red chaos in the center. A red figure came from the sky and a palm came down on the two of them. Magnet. That's a Kasaya. The martial artists on the other side of the Ring River turned pale with fright. That red figure was too fast, and they could not see it clearly. Yunxiao, on the other hand, only felt a blur in front of his eyes. In his shock, he thrust his sword forward. If Gao Lin wasn't a 9-stars martial supreme, he wouldn't have helped him. From the roar, Yunxiao realized that things were not good. If they lost a 9-stars martial supreme, the situation might become extremely bad. Gao Lin also reacted in an instant. No matter what Yunxiao's purpose was, at least he was helping him for now. After being injured by the attack, he urgently needed to rest, so he immediately fled through the tunnel Yunxiao had opened. As for Yunxiao, he waved his sword, sending out a sword beam that turned into a sword beam and slashed at the red figure. The figure was fearless, and he used his physical fist to take on Yunxiao's Northern Heaven Cold Star sword. Bang! Yunxiao felt as if the sword had hit the Vajra, causing violent sparks to fly out and a huge rebound force to his arm, almost making the sword drop from his hand. After knocking away Yunxiao's sword with a punch, the red figure changed several positions in the air and suddenly appeared in front of Yunxiao with a set of wonderful footwork. Then, he formed a seal with both hands and threw it out. Yunxiao's pupils constricted as he stared at the red figure's steps and handprints and cried out in horror. 1,000 Li illusory light steps. Floating like a dream, flying with a seal. While Yunxiao was still in shock, a shocking seal had already condensed above the Ring River. The floating will of life on the seal shone dazzlingly in all directions like a flying swan stepping on the snow, and then it came crashing down. Yunxiao could no longer care about the unrecognizable red figure behind the seal. The seal alone had enveloped all the warriors present, and even those dozens of meters away felt an irresistible chill from the bottom of their hearts. An aura of death gushed out from the depths of his heart, just like when he had faced the martial emperor's punch back in Yanwu. The space is also locked? Yunxiao's hands kept moving, and 3 golden ancient scriptures emerged and blasted in all directions. Ming King Seal, break the seal. Rumbling sounds came from all around Yunxiao. He knew that he could not resist the floating life seal no matter what. He knew very well the power of the seal. When he created it, he had taken the rules of space into consideration and blocked all his escape routes. However, at this moment, with the support of his powerful soul power, he unleashed the power of the Ming King seal to forcefully open up the space. Then, a monstrous mental energy surged out of the immemorial heaven's eye, instantly bending the surroundings and teleporting out. Form shift. The martial artists, who were still gaping in horror and waiting to see how Yunxiao would face the shocking blow, suddenly found that Yunxiao had disappeared, and the floating life seal was coming straight at them. Magnet. The crowd finally understood why Yunxiao had said that saving Gao Lin was saving themselves. They were ants, not even qualified to block such a shocking blow. Only martial venerables could resist it if they joined forces. Sun Jiming and Xiao Minghui turned pale with fright. Everyone realized the situation at the first moment and joined forces to attack without holding back. Gao Lin had suffered a loss from the attack, so he naturally knew how terrifying the red figure was. He seemed to have guessed something, so he threw out a piece of metal that was of the same color. It was like a brick, and it grew bigger and bigger in his hands. In the end, it turned into a giant piece of metal that was more than 10 meters long, and he pushed it horizontally in front of everyone toward the seal. Sun Jiming pointed out with his finger and thousands of finger radiance shot out from his body. The entire space was illuminated by the radiance. The radiance chased after Gao Lin's brick and shot toward the seal. A jade token appeared in Xiao Minghui's palm. It emitted a vast green light, which condensed into a sword chi in the air and suddenly slashed out. With the joint attack of the three experts, the rest of the people also took action one after another. No one held back. If they couldn't work together at this moment, only death would await them. The floating life seal fell from the sky and shook Gao Lin's brick. A boiling heat wave rolled out, and the brick lost its spiritual energy under the blow, falling into the Ring River. Then, Sun Jiming's finger radiance and Xiao Minghui's sword chi collided with the power of the seal. Hundreds of different lights, from martial supremes to martial grandmasters, all attacked and blocked the red light of the seal. The entire space was filled with energy fluctuations. Retreat. After receiving the floating life seal, Sun Jiming knew that the other party was powerful and could not be an enemy. He shouted and took the lead to retreat into the passage. Boom, boom, boom. The surrounding tunnels suddenly began to move at an extremely fast speed. Not only the tunnel they had come out from, but the dozen or so tunnels around the Ring River also began to move. As the last voice fell, the entire space fell completely silent. The expressions of Sun Jiming and the others changed drastically. They realized that all the passageways were blocked. Furthermore, there were sounds of cursing coming from the passageways beside them. They were the warriors who had gone missing in the passageways when they had come together. The people from the Big Dipper sect also reappeared in a passageway not far away. With the appearance of the crowd, all the noise gradually quieted down. They looked at the red figure in the sky with horror. His body was shrouded in fog, and his appearance could not be seen clearly. Only the powerful Yuan power fluctuated along with the aura of the Southern Fire Golden Crystal, making people feel very depressed. Tandijuan and the others looked around. After a short moment of surprise, they also looked at the man in the center. Who is he? Gao Lin held the brick in his hand, which had lost all its spiritual energy, and said with a solemn expression, "Everyone, please be careful. This person's cultivation base is unfathomable. He doesn't seem to be a martial sovereign of the 9 heavens, but he's far above us." What? He's almost a 9 heavens martial sovereign? You old bastard, are you kidding me? Tandijuan said in a deep voice. In just a short while, you've made an enemy who's almost at the martial supreme realm. The members of the Big Dipper sect felt the shock of the origin power, and their faces turned grave. As for the passageway behind them, it was completely sealed off after it pointed in this direction. Where's young Master Yun? Mei Dong asked anxiously. Tandijuan and the others were also taken aback. They did not see Yunxiao after a quick glance. Mei Dong saw that although Hanchuan's eyes were filled with anxiety, there was no sadness or despair. Only then did she relax. Sometimes, women's observation skills were very meticulous. He should still be hiding somewhere in this space, Gao Lin said. The man in front of me seems to be the trader of the Chamber of Commerce. He seems to have lost his mind. Tandijuan looked at the red figure in the sky in shock and said, "What a powerful aura of the Southern Fire Golden Crystal Mine. Could this person have been poisoned by the mine? If the mine poison is so deep, how can he survive?" Sun Jiming asked in shock. The figure standing in the air was shrouded in red, and his appearance could not be seen clearly due to the mist. Suddenly, he moved slightly and threw a punch into the air, as fast as lightning. Everyone was frightened and took a few steps back, becoming extremely vigilant. Shwa shwa shwa. A series of shattering sounds came from the sky. The target of the attack was not them, but an unknown point in the void. The area around the point immediately distorted. Yunxiao performed an incantation gesture with one hand, and his faint figure flashed and then reappeared in the sky dozens of meters away. With a grave expression, he suddenly said, "Mo Xiaochuan, is that you?" As soon as this unfamiliar name came out of his mouth, everyone's face was filled with confusion. Only Gao Lin's body trembled, and his eyes revealed a look of horror. Then, his killing intent was revealed, and cold stars condensed in his eyes. The figure in the red mist trembled violently for a moment, then calmed down. A powerful aura was released bit by bit, and it flew in Yunxiao's direction like silk being pulled out of a cocoon. There was an indescribable look in Yunxiao's eyes, and a deep concern appeared on his face as he sighed and said, "I didn't think that you'd be poisoned so deeply that you've lost your mind. However, you haven't completely lost your mind. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to use the floating life seal." "I didn't expect us to meet under such circumstances," he said with a self-deprecating smile. "You must have suffered a lot over the years." Everyone was confused, especially the helplessness and concern in Yunxiao's voice. Even Gao Lin was stunned. "Young Master Yun, is this man someone you know?" Tiandijuan couldn't help but ask. "Yes, very well," Yunxiao said. "You've been in South Fire City for so long, do you know how to resolve this mind poison?" "Are you playing with us?" Tiandijuan asked. This person had been poisoned so deeply that he must have been here for many years. "How old are you? Do you know each other when you were born? Could he be from your clan?" "You can say that," Yunxiao said. "Everyone, help me restrain him later, but you must not hurt him, or don't blame me for killing." He emphasized the word kill, and a cold air immediately spread out from his body. "We should thank the heavens as long as he doesn't hurt us," Tiandijuan said bitterly. He was even more wary of Yunxiao's identity and background, and he was almost certain that he was a disciple of some major force. Anyone he knew was almost a martial supreme. The expression on Gao Lin's face was the strangest as he asked suspiciously, "Young Master Yun, do you really know this person?" Yunxiao looked down, but his eyes grew colder and colder. "Naturally. However, I just heard you say that this man is a traitor of your Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce. I'm very curious. Mr. Chairman Junlin, please give me an explanation. Otherwise, your Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce will be in big trouble." The Northern Heaven's cold star sword appeared in his hand, emitting rays of autumn water cold light that condensed around him. Gao Lin was startled and took a step back warily. "Maybe I mistook for Walla." His words immediately made many people faint. The president of the Thunder and Wind Chamber of Commerce actually gave in to his words. It completely subverted the image of a martial honor in everyone's mind. A trace of shame flashed across Gao Lin's face. He was injured and had no choice but to lower his head. In his heart, he began to speculate about Yunxiao's identity. He also knew that the man in front of him was Mo Huayuan's elder brother, Gu Feiyang's disciple, and the young master of the Mo family in Black Iron City, Mo Xiaochuan. He had always thought that Mo Xiaochuan had died in this cave. To her surprise, he was still alive. He had only lost his consciousness because he had been poisoned too deeply, and had become a demonic beast. He thought of how Yunxiao knew Mo Xiaochuan, and what would happen if Mo Xiaochuan regained his consciousness. He was shocked and panicked for no reason. Cold sweat dripped down his forehead. Yunxiao's cold voice rang out again as he said, "President Qian, you're still able to break out in a cold sweat even under this searing heat wave. I'm impressed." "I was injured just now," said Gao Lin anxiously, "and that's why I'm sweating." "Young Master Yun, don't let your thoughts run wild. Suppressing this person and then escaping from this place is the right path." All the warriors agreed. They didn't want to stay in such a dangerous place any longer. As for the treasure, it was good to have it, but they couldn't lose their lives. The sword in Yunxiao's hand glowed with a cold light as he waved it behind his back. His cold eyes moved from Gao Lin to Mo Xiaochuan, and his expression turned gentle and solemn. Mo Xiaochuan suddenly moved. He lifted his leg and took a step forward. His movements seemed slow, as if he was walking with great difficulty. Then, he took a second step toward Yunxiao. The red chaotic qi on his body began to be absorbed into his body as he walked, slowly revealing his handsome and cold face that was numb and cold.